GLC is now offering a free audio stream of our 24/7 broadcast that we're calling GLC Radio, an online radio station that broadcasts our round-the-clock audio stream on a variety of platforms. GLC Radio gives you the ability to listen to GLC virtually anywhere, through your home or office computer, or on the go with a mobile device. You can access GLC Radio through our website or by searching for God's Learning Channel through iTunes Internet Radio, TuneInRadio.com, or on Shoutcast.com. Explore various GLC Radio-enabled mobile apps by visiting our website at glc.us.com/listen/GLC Radio. GLC Radio, your free connection to GLC anywhere, anytime.
Well, welcome to Wednesday's update. Glad you're with us, and you're watching the only place that I know of that brings you the kind of news. And people keep stopping us, Amy, when we're out having breakfast, me and your mother, telling us thank you because you're the only one we can get this from.
Wow, that's great.
It is.
That's really great. So tonight on Light of the Southwest, a brand new program with a couple of very special folks from down in Pecos, Texas, which is about an hour south of here, more or less. Joel Baeza and Olga Flores, and they each went separately on a trip with Hayovel to work the vineyards in Israel. And they've both been to Israel only that one time, and it radically changed their life, you know? So you can watch that tonight, but if you're going to be tuning in to the great debate tonight instead, you'll be able to see it plenty of times this weekend.
That's right.
Because we have 3 new programs, and I tell you what, poor Jerry over in the bookstore, her phone is ringing off the hook, and I'm pulling PayPal orders right and left, people wanting to get Dr. Ben-Gigi's books.
I'm telling you, that program,
That
I was
program,
glued to it last
yes.
night.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
I tell you, it was fabulous. We have another hour coming up with him on Thursday night.
Do you?
Yeah. I had a really amazing opportunity to interview Ezra Ravens, who's with the Jewish National Fund. Mm-hmm. So that will be the first hour Thursday night, and then the third hour that I had done with Dr. Ben-Gigi. So, lots of really great programs this week.
Yeah.
Good.
And you know what? I'm just crazy because I'm like, all right, Monday night we're competing with football. Well, then I find out Tuesday we're competing with the World Series, and Wednesday we're competing with the Great Debate. It's like, whatever. I'm just really grateful that there's plenty of opportunities to repeat these really wonderful shows over the weekend, Because I'm telling you, some of the stuff like that Dr. Ben-Gigi and Rabbi Amnon Shor were talking about, it's like I was sitting there with them, and I'm still watching the programs, and I'm going, wow, wow, that's so amazing.
Profound.
The part that Danny talked about the crowning of Yeshua. No accident that it happened at that exact time, the time when the kings of Israel. I did not realize that there were various Rosh Hashanahs, various New Years. It's like, well, that's kind of cool.
It is.
Okay, Pop.
I got a letter. It's a good letter, and it
is.
comes from, let's see, it comes from Gary and Goldie up in Amarillo. And she writes and says, or they write, Dear Al, Tommy, Amy, and staff, the roundup was so good. The nuggets were profound and a blessing. Enclosed is our one-time gift that is in addition to our monthly pledge. Please put this towards the needs of the defense funds, defender funds. We must occupy in getting the gospel out as long as we are allowed the time to do so, and that's true. Even watching some of the things that's going on in the debates, they're picking on Christianity. God bless you all and all you do for the kingdom. Gary and Goldie in Amarillo that watches on Channel 20 of Suddenly.
Thank you, Gary and Goldie. That is a great letter. During Roundup, we had a couple of brand new staff members that, of all the things that they could do for us, they were also running camera for us.
Right.
Yeah.
And Adelina, I just walked in a few minutes ago and I told her, I've really been feeling sorry for you. And she says, you have? I'm like, yes, because the first week that you were here, it was so much going on and just word after word after word after word. It's just a week of just 2 weeks of just intense. And now she's in the office learning things. It's like, sorry, what a letdown. She says, I kept asking everybody during Roundup, what do you do when Roundup's not going on? And like, Monica says, we catch up.
Right.
Oh, but anyway.
Right.
So,
A devotion?
I do, and it's from Francis Frangipane today. The Church and the Harvest is what he called it. Today, perhaps more than at any other time in history, nations stand at a crossroads. In the midst of terror attacks, blatant rebellion, and worldwide conflicts, is there yet one more great awakening in God's heart that will sweep multitudes into his kingdom? Or is the future irreversibly clocked, ever ticking toward catastrophic conflicts and doom? I, for one, am convinced that the Lord's heart burns for the nations. I believe that a great harvest season awaits us. It's easy to see sin and predict doom, yet the very fact that God gives us the privilege of prayer tells us he desires we participate with him in the transformation of our world. Indeed, even when a nation seems fully in the grip of evil, the heart of God is searching for one who would stand in the gap before him for the land. God's heart is to redeem, not destroy. And we can see that in Ezekiel 22:30. What a tremendous insight into the nature of God, that if just one person embraces Christ-like transformation, if he or she stands in the gap in unoffendable intercession, that individual can alter the future of a nation.
Amen.
Before you think I'm exaggerating, both the Bible and secular history tell us this is exactly the case. Singular individuals have stood for their families, churches, cities, and nations, and throughout time, God has used them to alter the course of history. The key to unlocking this great power from God is to live life with one compelling goal: to obtain the likeness of Christ. We must focus our faith on Jesus Christ. The priorities we present, if properly assimilated, will empower each of us to possess true spiritual transformation. We must pray that hundreds of thousands of Christ-like pastors, leaders, and intercessors are released into countries throughout the world. We're entering the season of our greatest transformation. It's accelerating toward us. God wants to use us to reach our families, neighbors, and beyond. But first, he must renew and transform our hearts. Do not doubt that the Spirit of God can do a deep and thorough work in you. At the end of the age, the Lord has promised his work of raising up people and reaching the nations will be accomplished thoroughly and quickly, according to Romans 9:28. Take faith. He assures us he will hasten our transformation in its time.
Amen.
that was
All
really
is
good.
not lost if we can set our hearts on becoming Christ-like and be unoffendable.
If we set our face like flint to do his will,
That's right.
we know that we will prosper.
That's right.
What was really, I told Dad about, 45 minutes to an hour ago, that when we are in a position where there's nothing that we can do, we're also in the position where there's nothing that God can't do.
Amen.
Right. That's right.
There's no need to look up, for your salvation draweth nigh, if you don't need salvation. If you don't need rescuing, why would he tell you, look up, your salvation draweth nigh? He's an amazing God.
He is.
And
an
he
amazing God.
wants to show himself amazing and really involved in each and every one of our lives.
That's right.
He's done all that he can do. I keep telling everybody, he loved us. He loved the world so much that he sent his word, the written word.
And the living word.
And then he loved the world so much that he sent his word in the flesh. the Word in the flesh had to go to the cross so that the Word could be then written on our hearts.
Yeah.
He loves us.
He does
And
indeed.
just like Mom's article says, his big thing is redemption.
It is. Oh, my.
He's the redeeming God, and he'll do whatever it takes to get everybody in that he can get in.
Mm-hmm.
He is
That's
not
right.
trying to keep anybody out. He is trying to get every one of us, no matter how hard-headed we might be, myself included, he wants me there.
Mm-hmm. He does.
That's unconditional love.
Isn't it?
Okay, this first article looks like it comes from
New York
the New
Post.
York Post. The FBI released an alert Monday warning the New York Police Department and police departments nationwide of a potentially dangerous anarchist group that says it plans to ambush cops on Halloween. The extremist group, known as the National Liberation Militia, has proposed a Halloween revolt that encourages supporters to cause a disturbance to attract police and then viciously attack them, the FBI said. The NYPD Intelligence Bureau is monitoring the threat, and there is no known link between the threat and New York City law enforcement specifically, the FBI said.
So, be on alert and don't get caught up in something like that.
Yeah, and I would also have to say, you know,
Protect your children.
you know what? We have to make our voices heard. We have to make our voices heard. As Christians, we must make our voices heard. I have been reading Dr. Ben Carson's book, the one that he just released, A More Perfect Union. And I have learned so much about the Constitution and how the founder set it up for our freedoms to actually be the responsibility of the citizens.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't picked up a copy of that book, you need to read it. I'm telling you, it is really eye-opening.
Even if you
Man.
don't care for him as a political candidate, you need that information.
I'm not talking about him as a political
That's
candidate.
right.
I'm talking about the knowledge contained in this book.
Mm-hmm.
It is phenomenal.
Good deal.
Okay, we've got a really unhappy story
Yes, you do.
that comes from the AP and the San Francisco Chronicle. On October 13th, that's a couple of weeks ago, 2 Palestinian men boarded a public bus in Jerusalem and began shooting and stabbing passengers. Richard Lakin, 76, an American educator who was a freedom rider for civil rights in the 1960s and advocated coexistence between Muslims and Jews when he moved to Israel, was one of their victims. Lakin died yesterday, of critical wounds he sustained during the attack a couple of weeks ago. Lakin was originally from Newton, Massachusetts, and a longtime elementary school principal in Glastonbury, Connecticut, before immigrating to Israel in the 1980s, according to his Facebook page and a report in the Hartford Courant. His Facebook page displayed an image of Israeli and Arab kids hugging under the word coexist. Rabbi Richard Plavin of Beth Shalom B'nai Israel in Manchester, Connecticut, which Lakin had attended, said of him, he was really a peacenik. He deeply believed in a two-state solution and wanted to see Arabs and Jews living together in peace.
May he rest in peace.
Yeah.
And this one comes from a Chicago Tribune. Israeli and Jordanian officials said Tuesday that new surveillance cameras should be installed within days at the walled Jerusalem shrine at the epicenter of Israeli-Palestinian violence, with the goal of streaming the live footage on the internet for maximum transparency. The idea to install the cameras emerged during separate talks late last week between U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry and the three sides with the stake at the shrine: Israel, Jordan, and the Palestinian self-rule government. Kerry was looking for a way to lower tensions, but it's not clear if video cameras will suffice.
Under the compromise brokered by Kerry, video cameras are to be installed inside the 37-acre walled platform of the Temple Mount to help diffuse tensions. The details are to be worked out between officials from the site's administrator, the Islamic Trust, or the Waqf, and Israeli authorities, said a senior Jordanian government official who spoke on condition of anonymity in line with briefing regulations. He said he expects the cameras to be installed in days, not weeks. He said both Muslim clerics and Israeli officials will, for now, monitor the images, but that the ultimate goal is for the footage to be seen on the internet by everyone on the planet.
Israeli officials confirmed the plan, and in a statement, Prime Minister Netanyahu's office said it hopes to start the process as soon as possible. Israel, welcoming the plan, says the cameras will prove it is doing nothing wrong and expose violent activities by Palestinian protesters. Palestinians, on the other hand, have given the plan a cool reception. They claim Israel will use the cameras to arrest people and complain that deeper issues have been ignored. At a Jerusalem news conference, Abdel Azim Salab, chairman of the Waqf Council, accused Israel of trying to Judaize the mosque. He stated, Israel wants cameras for its own purposes, and this will not happen.
The current round of violence began in mid-September, triggered in part by heated disputes over the Temple Mount. Jordan, which controlled the site before Israel captured it in the 1967 Six-Day War, serves as the custodian of the Muslim-administered site. Under decades-old arrangements, Jews are allowed to visit, but not to pray at the shrine. Palestinians fear that Israel is trying to expand its presence on the Temple Mount. Those fears have been fueled by an increased number of Jewish visitors to the site in the past 5 years, accompanied by statements from Jewish groups demanding that Jews be allowed to pray at their holiest site.
In mid-September, at the start of the Jewish High Holy Days, clashes erupted on the Temple Mount between young Palestinian stone throwers and Israeli security forces. The confrontations spread quickly. In all, 11 Israelis have been killed, mostly in stabbings. 52 Palestinians, including 30 said to be attackers, have been killed by Israeli fire. The latest Israeli casualty is Richard Lakin, as Amy just read that article, a dual citizen of Israel and America who died yesterday after succumbing to stab wounds sustained in a Palestinian attack on a public bus 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that picture that Ryan just threw up, if you didn't see the caption on it, that just happened at the junction near Kiryat Arba.
Yeah.
And a Palestinian stabbed in the neck, a 19-year-old IDF soldier. Mm-hmm. All right, this next one comes from UCI. U.S. presidential candidates have been invited to participate in the first ever U.S. Presidential Candidates Forum held abroad, focusing on foreign and defense policy issues. From Jerusalem, Israel, November 3rd and 4th, each presidential candidate will have an opportunity to present their views on U.S. foreign policy, U.S.-Israel relations, threats affecting U.S. allies in Europe and Asia, the instability in the Middle East, terrorism, and solutions to increase the economic well-being and security of Americans in the U.S. and abroad. Each candidate will have a 1-hour segment of engaged discussion at the forum, allowing the candidate to be less than 48 hours away from campaign trail in the U.S. Each candidate will be solely featured at the forum, presenting their own ideas and solutions to questions shared by a nonpartisan independent panel. This strategic endeavor will be broadcasted from Jerusalem, Israel by media partners including NRB TV Network, joined by U.S. and international televised broadcasting groups including online and print media. The U.S. Presidential Candidates Forum is co-hosted by U.S.-based International Leaders Summit and National Religious Broadcasters. During the 20th century, America's strategic leadership in foreign security and trade policy affirmed our common civilization based on the rule of law, protecting life, liberty, and private property, said Joel Anand Sami, co-founder and president of the International Leaders Summit. At the Jerusalem Leaders Summit's forum featuring U.S. presidential candidates, America's next president will be able to address the challenges, threats, and opportunities of the 21st century. Presidents must be fully versed on foreign policy and understanding the Middle East, and how to manage our strategic alliance with Israel is an imperative for the United States, said Jerry Johnson, the president of the National Religious Broadcasters. This is a tremendous opportunity for presidential candidates to showcase their foreign policy credentials.
I think
That's great.
Wonderful idea.
That was really great.
Yes. Well, this article comes from Intercessors for America. Houston has emerged as ground zero for national gay rights groups seeking a key victory on red state soil as they mobilize behind a sweeping equal rights ballot measure expanding transgender access to public restrooms. The Human Rights Campaign, Gill Action, and the American Unity Fund are among those pumping hundreds of thousands of dollars into the race over Proposition 1, which would position Houston as a national leader on the transgender rights by making it illegal to deny entry to public restrooms based on gender identity. We see a lot here that concerned citizens can do, but only one action as intercessors, which is to pray fervently. We've commented before, and no words can make this situation other than it is. The spiritual confusion in Houston is spreading. Without God's intervention, children and adults across the U.S. will be hurt. Pray that our unified prayers will prevail. Give thanks for many who are praying.
Galatians 6, 7 and 8 says, "Do not be deceived, God is not mocked. For whatever a man sows, that he will also reap. For he who sows to his flesh will of the flesh reap corruption, but he who sows to the Spirit will of the Spirit reap everlasting life."
Amen.
And we don't need to remind you. Please put that on your prayer list.
That's a scary thought.
It is.
I'm sorry, but if females are thinking of this, that's very scary to have men allowed into the restroom with us. It's like, no. Okay, we have an article from CBN News, Vienna. Some say the invitation to participate in peace talks, along with stepped-up military tactics against the Islamic State, signals a changing U.S. strategy for the Middle East. The shift became apparent Tuesday when State Department spokesman John Kirby announced that Iran is being invited to attend Syrian peace talks in Vienna. At some point in the discussion, moving toward a political transition, we have to have a conversation and a dialogue with Iran, Kirby said. While Iran said it will attend the peace talks, Kirby made it clear the U.S. did not invite the Islamic Republic, and the country is not a partner, but a stakeholder in Syria. Defense Secretary Ashton Carter says U.S. troops will now be more involved in actual combat against the Islamic State, like the recent rescue operation in Iraq when special forces joined with Kurdish Peshmerga troops. We won't hold back supporting capable partners in opportunistic attacks against ISIS or in conducting attacks directly from the air or on the ground, Carter said. The goal for now is to recapture Iraq's Anbar province and seize the Islamic State-controlled capital city of Raqqa in Syria.
There's also growing recognition that Syrian President Bashar Assad, now with active Russian combat help, will remain in power. The French are reportedly considering reopening their embassy in Damascus, which was closed back in 2012. The question on many people's mind is, does this signal a shift in Syrian policy or a collapse? Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican from South Carolina, says Russia, Iran, and Hezbollah are acting to ensure Assad remains in power, and the Obama administration is doing nothing to stop it. He is secure as the day is long, Graham said. So this is what's happened, folks. This strategy has completely fallen apart.
Meanwhile, the Islamic State continues to spread and unleash terror around the Islamic world. Afghanistan's national security advisor warns that Islamic State terrorists have become a serious threat in his country. In addition, reports coming from the Middle East say Turkey and several Gulf states have transported 500 Islamic State jihadists from Syria to Yemen to fight in the civil war there. Turkey also tackled Islamic State head-on, launching raids that killed 7 suspected fighters and captured 30 others. The stepped-up fighting has caused more civilians to flee.
Meanwhile, UN High Commissioner for Refugees, Antonio Guterres, suggests the world is at a breaking point in handling the largest displacement of people since World War II. He says the United States, Russia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and others must work together to end the war in Syria. The question to me is, are the parties that are relevant to this conflict already convinced that the risks that they all face are so big that they are more important than the differences among them or not? Gut asked. My sincere belief is that it is a suicide to let this war go on.
It's an outrage,
It
really.
is an outrage.
Because we could so easily take out the Islamic State. But no, we're allowing them to make it seem to the people that are attracted to them that they're all powerful. And that's what attracts many people to go fight with them. Okay, so this comes from Startup Israel. Practically all Israeli homes have been reconnected to the power grid. The Israel Electric Corporation said Wednesday morning, 3 days after a powerful storm knocked out power for tens of thousands of homes and led to angry criticism of the state-owned firm and its workers' union.
At the height of the storm on Sunday, 1 person was killed and 20 more injured as high winds and heavy rain battered the country, knocking down trees and a crane in central Israel and flooding roads in the south. The rain is expected to continue sporadically throughout the week. While many were quickly reconnected to the power supply, thousands of homes in the Sharon area remained without electricity into Tuesday.
Israel Electric Corporation said crews had worked through the night to hook up the last unconnected homes in the Sharon region north of Tel Aviv. The company's management and municipal and state officials accused IEC workers of conducting a work slowdown, known as an Italian strike, to protest planned reforms to streamline the company.
Energy Minister Yuval Steinitz declared that once the power grids were repaired, an investigation should be opened into IEC's handling of the situation.
Okay, so maybe we can get part of this one done. Comes from Brett Bart News. Out of Bethlehem, we are the forgotten people, but we are not forgotten by God. That's how Pastor Naim Khoury of First Baptist Church of Bethlehem, the largest evangelical church in the Palestinian-controlled West Bank area of Israel, explained his church's continuing existence. After all, it's been bombed 14 times. The birthplace of Jesus is Bethlehem, the hometown of Israel's King David. That part of Israel is currently in the West Bank, which Israel has given to the Palestinian Authority to govern. We are not all terrorists, Khoury insists, speaking in the sanctuary of his church. There are Arab Christians here who love the Jewish people. There are sweet people here who love Jesus and love Israel. Khoury is the epitome of the happy warrior as he describes his struggle in a region plagued by violence. They thought they could chase us away, but the Lord has sustained us, he says, as calmly as if he were describing the weather.
There are 150,000 people in Bethlehem. First Baptist Church is the largest Palestinian church in the West Bank. The church has 300 members, 65% of which are unemployed and thus have no income whatsoever. It has also planted 5 more churches throughout the West Bank territory. They make do with very little amidst extreme poverty. Christians from America provide part of their financial support, some contributing online through the church's website.
See, that's what you have to remember, is that there are Arab Christians too, and boy, oh boy, are they ever persecuted.
Oh, yes.
So keep them in your prayer. Hey, I got a message from Gitana because the International Day of Prayer for actually the persecuted church, I think they're doing it every Sunday during the month of November.
Okay.
So this next Sunday, November the 1st, is a time for us to pray for the persecuted around the world. And you know what? We love you so much. Thanks for standing with us. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you Friday. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem.